Have you ever felt stuck in your growth journey, wondering how to build resilience in the face of challenges?
Or maybe you're looking to shift your mindset and unlock your full potential.
Well, if you said yes, then you are in the right place.
Welcome to the Stretch Zone. I'm Hannah.
And I am Feds.
And here we explore self-development, nurture resilience, and embrace the mindset shifts that help you grow beyond your limits. Hello and welcome back, everyone. So I'm Hannah, I've got Feds in the room, and we've got Doug in the room today. It is our first episode of season 4, and we are taking a little journey this season with inviting some external people into our world, which is really exciting.
I am so excited. So without further ado, Douglas Brewer is an executive communication coach who works with non-native English speakers at the highest levels. His clients have gone on to gain entry to Harvard and partner with OpenAI. He specializes in helping international professionals not just improve their English, but transform the way they lead, present, and communicate with confidence. And his goal from day one with each new client to say goodbye. Douglas, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much. How are you today?
Well, thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be on the Stretch Zone. And yes, we're doing great.
I know. I was just thinking, like, the way we met was so random. Like, my time in Florida was just a crazy one. And I ended up, like, just meeting you completely randomly. And now we are here. How crazy is that?
It's a small world. Well, and it's even smaller now that we can find one another online.
I know, because neither
I'm
of you
very
are
glad
living
that
in
we
Florida.
had a chance to. That's correct. Yeah, we're on the completely other side of the world at the moment.
Exactly. It's on the same continent, but not in the same country. So it is a pleasure to have you here. And when we started talking about what you are doing now, because it is a bit different compared to what you did back in Florida, it was so interesting for me as well because I work with languages too. So it was interesting to see how you talk about the topic and all your ideas, right? And one thing that I notice is really important in what you do is motivation, right? This idea of motivation. So I would like to start from that, and I would like to know why. Why does motivation fail most people when they try to improve themselves, and what actually happens between that initial excitement and the drop off?
It's a great question. We all feel it, like initial burst of energy that you get when you're motivated. You're super excited to take on something new, like a skill, or you develop another area. And I like to think of motivation, I like to call it what it is. Motivation is an emotion, right? And so emotions change. And what that means is that the motivation will be high some days, it'll be low other days. We have those bad days where we're just not quite feeling it. If we rely entirely on motivation, we are going to fail because not everybody can be motivated all day, all the time. For me, it's linking motivation to a system, some sort of discipline that you can lock in, because those systems are not going to fail you. Once you put them in place, you can even tweak them and fine tune them, but they're in place, even when your motivation isn't necessarily there. So for me, it's letting motivation start things off, kick things off, and then letting the system sort of be confines within which you operate.
Yeah, wow. I was just wondering, because I was just thinking how I don't actually look at TikTok, that shows my age, but Instagram feeds, and they're always completely flooded with motivational stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that felt like a little mic drop just then in terms of we are not always going to be motivated. I think it just felt really reassuring to actually hear that and like, oh, real world.
Right. It's kind of nice. It's like, yeah, it's like saying, we don't have to all just be motivated all the time.
Yeah.
And I hope that it does feel that way, because I think we would all be lying to ourselves if we said that we were.
Yeah. So If motivation isn't the answer that actually drives long-term improvement, what kind of structures or routines or systems could make us progress, in fact?
Everyone's different. So, one of the things that I really enjoy about what I do is analyzing people when I first meet them, getting to know them, understanding what it is that they're trying to accomplish. And then as their guide, their coach, whatever it is that you want to call me, helping them build a system that works for them. Honestly, for most people, it starts off with something embarrassingly small, right? Like you try to, everybody wants to just immediately be able to play guitar or immediately be able to speak another language or, immediately do something that's incredible. And we all know that that's just not possible. So what do? We say, I'm going to commit 20 hours a week to this, or I'm going to commit 3 hours a day to this, or whatever it may be. And that's just so rare that we're going to be successful in that regard. So for me, it's starting off with something just very small. And for example, in the case of being a language coach, I will tell individuals, how much time are you willing to commit to training together, to working together? And a lot of them being very busy, they'll say, "Oh, I can do 1 hour, I can do 2 hours a week." I say, "That's fine. Let's start with 1, 2 hours a week." Ideally, we would do a bit more eventually. We'll get to that point, but let's just start with that 1 hour, that 2 hours a week. Outside of our time together, how much time do you think you'll be able to commit each day? Oh, I can do 30 minutes or I can do an hour. Let's just start with the 30 minutes and let's see if you can get there. And what you'll find is once you add that in, I like to tell my clients to tie it to a habit that already works in their day to day life. So, for example, if you wake up every morning and you do your stretches and you have a cup of coffee, why not tie a 10 or 15-minute routine before or after that? Once you've done that 5, 6, 7, 8 times, you can say, all right, that works really well. It fits into my schedule. Let's add another session somewhere else. And I think it's those small changes that can become cumulative over time.
One thing that I noticed, I noticed that with my clients as well, which is very similar to your clients, I guess, is that there is, and it's connected with this idea of the stretch zone. People often panic because they have this strong motivation, but they also don't know exactly what to do, and they are scared of making mistakes and not being good enough. They start asking themselves a million questions, and there is this moment where either they freeze or they do something that it's so big that it makes them regret even trying. Like they jump out of their comfort zone so quickly. And I've seen that, especially when it comes to talks and presentations. I'm like, if you never talk with anyone in English in your daily life, you're not going to feel comfortable in front of an audience of 50 people, right? So I think what you just mentioned is essential when it comes to also slowly stretching their comfort zone and become more and more used to do something that is new, right? And another idea that I think, well, you mentioned briefly, and I want to talk a bit more, is habits, right? Start small. So what are some small habits that compound into real progress over time and also that bring more comfort and stretch their comfort zone?
In my particular case, working with, non-natives that are working on their language skills, for me, it's becoming more acquainted with the language. And when it comes to language, there's different aspects. So of course, the reading, writing, the speaking, and the listening components. So you've got your productive skills, and then you've got those sort of passive skills. And so we need to be producing language. A lot of people get excited. We talk about the motivation, and they download 3 different apps, and they start doing all these little things. But what a lot of those things are doing is they're very passive. You're doing some reading, you're doing some listening, but how often are you actually speaking? How often are you actually engaging? And so one of the habits that you can put into place almost immediately is just putting yourself in a situation where you have to produce. Which we often feel more comfortable with the passive. So I would say give yourself some productive opportunities. Many of my clients say, well, that's why I hired you, was so that I could have someone to speak with in a safe space. And so I do offer that to my clients. Habit number one, meet me once a week, twice a week, and I'll make this a safe space for you to join me. I'll be your accountability partners. For a lot of people, that is step one. And then maybe step two, if I may take the question one step further, would be then add in that little micro habit at the beginning, middle, or end of your day where you listen actively to a YouTube video and take notes, or you watch a YouTube video and you pause and you imitate the cadence and the rhythm and the tone of the individual's voice to feel that comfort. I think those little things are really going to start getting you there until you feel comfortable putting them out there and getting it public. And that's from a language perspective. I imagine that would apply quite well to a number of different skills as well.
That was giving me food for thought because I have a little interview myself coming up next in 2 weeks' time, and I was putting what you were saying into play into what I need to do for that interview because I'm going to do a bit of a coaching demo, and it's not about me learning another language. I'm going to be doing it in my own language, and I had a coaching session on the fact that I'm going to be doing this, so I was coached on it the other day. And I was trying to think of ideas as to how I can prepare for it. And everything that you were saying was like, okay, yeah. And then the one thing that I almost forgot to do was, why don't I do a practice interview as well? So it's really putting that practical side into it, which can be super helpful. And I really appreciated what you were just saying there, because I almost forgot about trying to do that because I think it's really
right.
useful.
Yeah,
it's always worked.
That's great. And best of luck, by the way, on that. I'm sure that'll go really well for you. And to Fed's point, I do want to bring back up because I thought you brought up a really good point about, people get really scared and really nervous and they can sort of like bring them back in and they almost take steps backwards. Yeah. I always tell people that when you go to speak, because a lot of times my clients, they want to speak in public, whether it's in their native language or not, everybody's a bit terrified of speaking in front of a group of people. Always tell yourself, and I stole this from Simon Sinek, but he says, I'm here to share. Right? I'm here to give. And I think for me, that's a great message. It's not about me. It's about giving something. And the little spice that I've added to that really works for me is that nobody wants you to fail. Right? Who goes to a presentation or sits with somebody and says, I really hope this is boring. I really hope this is awful. I hope that they tank. Nobody, right? So they're already on your side. And so if you start by saying, I'm here to share and give, and you couple it with, they're on my side, you're already in the right mindset to succeed.
Yeah, I love that. That's really powerful, what you've just said there, that they're actually already on your side. Yeah, they want you to do well. I love that. Something else you said earlier was about tying your practice or whatever it is that you're trying to achieve to something else that you're already doing, like morning coffee, like morning stretches. Mm-hmm. And that we're talking about the structure of someone's day, for example. And that is something I personally really struggle with. My husband works shift work, so every week is really different. Our weeks are really different. So I find finding those little elements of structure. I don't do a 9-to-5 job. We don't have children, so I'm not doing something at a certain time other than, I guess, brushing my teeth, walking the dog, having food. It feels like anything else is a free for all.
Having food.
So I guess I could tie things to that. But why is it that I even feel this resistance, and I'm sure other people feel this resistance to structure? So what can we do with that idea if there's resistance to tying something to structure?
It's a great question. And again, all too common. I think everybody feels that way. I think the reason why we don't like structure is because it holds us accountable. Right? I mean, once the structure is in place, once the framework is there, then the only thing stopping you from checking that box or doing that thing is you. And when you don't have the structure, then you can just say, oh, I don't feel like it today, or, oh, wow, well, my husband worked really late last night, so I can't do this now. I have to be. So you end up making an excuse, and the brain is always going to take the easiest route from here to there, right? It's all about just getting there. And so we have to sort of trick ourselves into saying, no, don't skip it. What about that structure you put in place? I'm also okay with cheat days, right? Like I don't come in super strong on my clients and say, no, you have to do it every single day, because I understand that we do have bad days. But once the structure is in place, let's say in your case, you can't do it every morning, but let's say you know that on certain mornings you can, on certain days it needs to be afternoon, and certain days it needs to be evening. You
Yeah.
do need to build that structure in,
Yeah.
right? Even though the days are kind of changing, you do still need to say, I've got to get my 10 minutes in or my 30 minutes in somewhere. And then if you have a cheat day where you skip, can you just minimize it? Like instead of doing 30, can you just try 10 that day? Can you just show up? That's half the battle. And sometimes you might even find, hey, you know what? I'm going to make this 10 minutes 30. So sometimes just showing up will get you there. And if you just skip it all together, calculate that. And at the end of your week or the end of your month, look back. If you're cheating a lot, maybe you've overextended. Maybe you can't actually do this right now, and that's okay. Shift the system, right? It's not the system's fault. It may just be that you just aren't able to commit as much time as you really thought that you did originally.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm smiling here because when you said, oh, you just have to show up, it made me think that I've been trying for the past 2 months to get a gym membership. And I still haven't managed to do that because every single time I'm like, nah, I'm not going to use it. I know that I'm not going to use it. And, I think it's a similar idea, right? I'm not learning a foreign language, but I am trying to implement something in my life that needs a little bit of structure. And I remember I used to have a client and she used to go running every single day, either at the gym or outside. And I was like, how do you do that? Like, do you ever have days when you're like, no, I just want to stay at home. I just want to sit and I just want to chill with my dogs. And she was like, yeah, but I treat it like a job.
Mm.
I treat it as if I had an appointment with a client. I have to show up. I cannot just say no.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna
Wow.
try that. Still haven't got my membership, so probably.
But that right? Because would you just not show up to your job? Most people
Yeah,
would, right? Always go. I love that. I think that's fantastic. Easier said than done. Some
yeah,
people need like an accountability partner maybe to go along with that.
yeah.
But absolutely, it's a mindset shift.
I think in my specific case, but I think it's also applicable to languages. It's the kind of practice. I
Mhm.
hate the gym. Like, I know that there are people who hate grammar exercises. There are people who hate reading books. If it were me, like, I would definitely prefer to go walking. I would go swimming. And so, in some ways, I'm like, why? If the final result that I'm looking for is just getting fit for my wedding day in June, or in case of languages, it could be being able to introduce yourself to another person or giving a presentation. Who says that I have to do grammar exercises? Who says that I have to follow a traditional route, right? There's freedom. We're not at school anymore. We have the chance to do pretty much whatever we want, right?
Mhm.
So I think sometimes we put ourselves in a box in that sense. I've always done things in a certain way. Everyone goes to the gym, so I should go to the gym, right?
So
Everyone
Feds,
does.
I have that question for you now then. What's one
Okay.
thing you can do for 10 minutes 3 times a week that's not going to the gym?
Ah,
And what can you tie it to?
you know what? No, honestly, when I used to live in Florida, there
Mhm.
was this yoga place. It was amazing. They had hot yoga.
Yeah.
I used to go every day,
Okay.
without fail. Like, I loved it so much. And who loves being in a room that's like 40 degrees Celsius
Not me.
and outside is even, yeah, I loved it. So I think I need to find something that I really enjoy. Like, now, the best thing I can do is walk my dogs. I know I can do it every day. I can do it for 30 minutes. And I think I'm going to try and go to the pool. I'm going to go swimming because it's getting hot. Summer is coming.
Yeah.
I like the idea of being in the water. So, you know,
There we go.
whoever is listening, if you are in my situation, find your thing.
Maybe
You don't
the
have
gym
to
is
go.
not for you.
No, exactly. Maybe the gym is not. Save your
Exactly.
money.
And also I think that if I may jump in, I feel like we often in the US we're really big on resolutions. I found now that I live in Europe that everyone's like, we don't do New Year's resolutions. That's that silly thing you Americans do. Well, we always do it in the US, and it's the same. It's similar to what you were saying, Feds. Everybody wants to get their gym membership, and gyms rack up on these memberships at the beginning of the year. And what happens in February? Nobody's in the gym anymore,
Mm-hmm.
except for the people that actually like going to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that you can do when you say it's time for me to start becoming healthy is, again, give yourself a goal. I want to become healthy is not really a very smart goal if you look at like specific, measurable, attainable,
Yeah.
relevant, time bound, right? If you do the smart system,
Yeah.
you've got to lock it in better than that. So I want to lose X amount of kilos by this amount of time
Yeah.
for the specific reason. Maybe it is for the way you want to look in your wedding dress, or maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
because you're going to the beach. Sometimes those models work for people, especially with health. Or maybe you've been to the doctor recently and some numbers were a bit off and you want to get those numbers down. I think drama versus data, maybe you can think of it that way, right? Like
Yeah.
when like we can get real dramatic and emotional about why we want to do something, but just
Yeah.
give it something quantitative
Yeah.
as opposed to just focusing on the quality behind it. And then you might tie it in and tell yourself, going swimming may be tough because, well, what if that one day where you don't have your bathing suit because the other one was wet? Or maybe it's like, well, the swimming pool is 20 minutes from my place and I've got to get there. So go ahead and think about all the things that might stop it from happening
Yeah.
and build contingencies, put them in place ahead of time. So when that moment comes and you're like, oh, well, I've got an extra bathing suit here because I knew that might happen. Or
Yeah.
I've, got an easy way to get there. I've got two built-in plans to get there, something like that. Just
Yeah.
to try to stop yourself from giving yourself that excuse, right?
Yeah, yeah, remove friction, definitely. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it makes me laugh because I went to the gym on Monday and it was packed. Because I went there thinking I'm gonna get my membership, and it was packed. And I asked the girl, and I was like, "Is it always this busy?" And she looks at me and she's like, "No, this is guilt. On Tuesday, there's no one." And I'm like, "Okay." So after Monday,
The
after the weekend,
Monday guilt.
It's the
exactly,
Monday guilt. So every day it's
exactly,
busy. That's funny.
yeah.
That's
So
amazing.
I
gym,
thought
gym is definitely not for me. Yeah.
I thought it was going to be the
Yeah,
Easter
yeah,
guilt or something.
But yeah,
like
also because we just
yeah.
had Easter, so that's
We like to
definitely.
build guilt into our society, right?
We
It
certainly
shows up a
do.
lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But
for
even
sure.
even for languages, like I think people are really feeling this kind of guilt most of the time. Like I hear people all the time here in Italy apologizing when they first start. My husband is my partner, my husband, however you want to call him, is British, and when people talk to him, they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry for my English." I'm like, "Dude, you haven't even spoken. Like, why are you apologizing? Like, say something
Mhm.
first. It's okay. Don't worry. There's no need to feel guilty because your English is not good. It's
Right.
fine. You're good. We're
I'm really
just
glad you
talking."
brought that up because we all need to stop apologizing for our communication skills. We're communicating, right? And
Yeah.
and and there's just it's like you were saying before, it's like there's this sort of like expectation that we have to automatically go from beginning to end. Nobody said that except for you in your mind, right?
Yeah.
And to what I was mentioning before that everyone's on your side. Well, if I'm a native English speaker and someone walks up to me and starts speaking to me in English, I'm immediately like, well, I'm glad I don't have to start speaking Italian because this wouldn't go
Yeah.
very well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is, and so we as the non-native, I mean, we as the natives actually should be working on some skills to assist and help individuals who are working really hard to get their language skills up. We should be better listeners. We should clarify more. We should do things. And I'm going on a tangent. It's kind of outside of our topic, but I do think there is a global communication sort of reform that needs to take place because it should all fall on the speaker, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And
absolutely.
I'm curious, Hannah, because you lived in Vietnam for a while and you
Yeah, I
told
was
me that
just
you
thinking about
learned.
that.
So have you ever felt like that? Like this idea, oh, I'm so sorry, my Vietnamese is not good enough.
I mean, come on, my Vietnamese was terrible.
But but
It was so
no.
bad that I would say, I mean, the trouble the trouble is that like with Chinese languages, it's a lot of tonal types of phrasing. So it is so incredibly difficult to actually speak in Vietnamese as a non native speaker if you're coming from countries like our language is built. I mean, they're built so differently. So the difficulty was is that even if I thought it was perfect, the Vietnamese were not in tune to be prepared that a non-Vietnamese looking person was even attempting to speak Vietnamese. So it was very difficult to penetrate through that actually I'm trying to speak your language. Because even some of my really close friends that could speak, in my opinion, who knows if it was that good, but it was way better than mine, fluent Vietnamese, that even you could even see them struggling. So it's that whole listening thing. But it was so difficult to try and communicate in Vietnamese. So however, you get really clever with your communication. So then you use body language. You'll use just one or two words. You learn, yeah, exactly. I'm getting Italian now.
Exactly.
You learn how they would say yes or no, because it could be different to the way that we actually physically do it. That was really fascinating. And then you just learn to use really simple phrases. So this is embarrassing, but of course I used to get driven around a lot in a taxi. So I just basically knew directions. They would never understand my address. So then I learned how to say left, right, turn around and stop.
See?
But think about what you're just describing. It's exactly what we're saying, right? Those are small incremental changes that you made out of necessity. I've got to get from here to there.
Yeah.
So I did it, right? And if we can find a way to, problem is that we don't plug that into our day to day until we've got to get in that taxi. We've got to go, right? We don't start preparing for that job interview until we've got the job interview.
Absolutely.
So is it hard to start that beforehand? Absolutely. But if you can treat it like
the
a job, like
was there, right?
Yeah.
Just a very funny little side note. My husband and I just remembered this morning. I don't know why we thought about it. So he, because I met him in Vietnam, and we used to, by our last couple of years, we were driving ourselves around on mopeds. So I didn't need to ask for directions, or tell directions, shall I say. And so he went once to, I think he was looking at a gym in a different area that we didn't live. And we were just saying, isn't that amazing that we used to drive around without sat nav? How did we do that? Anyway, he got lost and couldn't figure out how to get home. So he's like in this district that he didn't often go to, and luckily found someone that could speak good enough English and was basically saying, I'm lost. And he paid their grandmother to sit on the back of his motorbike. And she directed him in Vietnamese back to the city. So she got to, and he paid her. So she got to do her errands. Probably had lots of money to get a taxi back home, plus more. And then he could figure out how to get home. But she just sat on the back, this little 8-year-old woman, telling him where to go. So look, we figure it out, don't we?
Amazing. Since we're on the topic of mopeds in Vietnam, my wife and I were in Vietnam once on a trip, and we were together and we needed to go somewhere. We both jumped on the two separate mopeds that were following each other, and then at one point they just split. And one went one direction and one went the other direction. And I remember looking at her and she was looking at me, and we said later, we were like, well, that's when we knew we'd never see each other again. Bye. Luckily they came together at one point, but I was like, dodged the bullet on that one. I could have been
Wow, it's crazy. But I mean, it's so interesting to see, like, out of necessity, people do whatever. There's one thing that you mentioned at the very beginning. Well, actually, I mentioned it in your introduction, which is connected to your goal, right? Your goal as a coach is to say goodbye to your clients, which is a bit counterproductive, because one person would imagine, like, I would want to work with my clients forever, right? But what does that mean exactly to you?
Yeah. There's so many coaches out there, like some people say, like, what do you do for a living? Like, I'm a coach. And they're like, all right. And so it's like, I want to be the anti-coach, like I think it's a great philosophy. And I've actually seen, when I first started that wasn't the case. This is something that I've sort of developed, and I found that it works. When you tell your client from day one, listen, I'm here to say goodbye to you. What you're saying is, I want to help you develop the self-awareness. I want to help you build the systems that are going to get put in place.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get you to the point to where you can start recognizing these areas. Otherwise, what happens, and I've noticed it with some of my clients when I first started, was they become very dependent on me. And I feel like I'm
Mm-hmm.
just enabling them, right? And yes, maybe that's what they need at first because it's like they can't go to the gym. So, but they know there's a trainer there waiting for them. So they go. But after a while, they're going to go to the gym and I'm not going to be there. Right. And I even tell my clients this sometimes. I say, well, in today's session, I'm not really going to be doing much. It's all on you today. Right. I start slowly shifting responsibilities. I start eliciting responses for them. Well, why did you say it that way? Can you correct this? What are your thoughts on this? And I just become a lot more of a facilitator and guiding them there. And ideally, especially if we come in strong and we build up that momentum and we're meeting 3, 4 times a week, I'm going to start weighing you down to 3. I'm going to start weighing you down to 2. I'm going to start weighing you down to 1. I'm going to be giving you more work on your own because you've already showed me you can show up 4 hours a week for me. Well, now let's
Mm-hmm.
do 1 hour with me and you do 3 on your own. And
Mm-hmm.
what I've found is that people are really receptive to that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
obviously from a business standpoint, it may not seem like a great model, but it actually is because people love that. It's a
Mm-hmm.
great, it's been a great USP for me because people are saying, okay, he's not just here to take my money week after week
Yeah.
after week. He wants to actually get me there. That's great. And what I've found is that then I get to become like a great cheerleader because when they finally, I have this amazing Peruvian student who needed to pass the TOEFL examination because she wanted to go to Harvard. And I was like, this is the coolest goal ever. I want to help her get the score she needs to go there. And yeah, she was speaking well, but she needed some polishing. We only had 2.5 months. And we got her there and she got in. And now she was only my client for 2.5 months, but we keep in great touch. We're constantly reaching out to each other, talking to each other. We built this great relationship and I can sort of cheer her on from the sideline. I mean, for
Nice.
me, that's extremely rewarding. I love it.
That
Nice. Nice.
that is such fabulous advice for all coaches out there, may I just say. Um,
Yep.
as a new coach, which I still class myself as, there's still that sort of, as you're trying to build a business, unfortunately, there's the selfish, oh, this is money coming in, and you're not actually serving the client. So you have to be really, really careful not to fall into that trap. Whereas the angle that you're taking is absolutely about serving the client. So it's great from the client point of view that hopefully there's that transformation by the end of the time being with you. And I really respect that. Thank you for sharing that
Mm-hmm.
And there are clients
philosophy.
that come in. I tell them that approach, and they don't really want that. I do
Yeah,
have some clients
sure.
that I do meet week after week after week
Yeah,
because they really just want to maintain. They just
yeah,
want
yeah,
someone to speak with. They just want them to go. And you know what?
yeah,
That's fine. If that's your goal, that's what we'll do.
yeah,
But if I have my say, that's what I'm going to do. Maybe it goes back to the hospitality background, the world that Feds and I met in, right? Because my background is hospitality and servant leadership, right? And being altruistic and doing something for others. I've always felt in the universe that you do that for someone else, it usually ends up coming back in some way, shape, or form. So
Mm-hmm.
it is something that I've found actually works quite well. And I do hope that more coaches will take it on. I think you'll find you can still bring in clients. You can still you can still have a lucrative business, and you can make what you need to get by. But that reward that you feel, that's invaluable. I really
yeah.
feel.
We've done this slightly backwards in terms of we didn't really ask you, and I feel like this is a really appropriate time to ask you, how did you get in to the work that you're currently doing? Give us so usually you'd start a podcast this way, and we didn't today.
Let's do it back. I like
But
it
I
backwards. That's fun.
actually, because I read all the questions and I was like, at some point we really should ask Doug in his own words, how he got to where he was. But I actually think this feels very appropriate at this point. Can you tell us your background in terms of how you ended up where you are now?
It was very rude of us because Feds and I already know each other. So
Yeah,
Feds
it
like,
was a
well,
bit.
I don't even know where he came from.
It
I
was
said,
kind of like that. But hey, we're doing it now.
animal fan. She'll fill in the pieces. And everybody else out there listening. Oh yeah, by the way. So I always wanted to. I wasn't a great student, so and it really came down to the fact that I just rarely was engaged. I just maybe it was ADD or ADHD or whatever it might be undiagnosed, but I just was rarely engaged. And so
Yep.
whenever it was because the teacher was able to do something that just captivated me, and I was the best student in the class. And so once I realized that, I thought, well, I want to do that for someone. I want to help tune someone in the way that these individuals were able to tune me in. So my goal was to become a teacher. And so when I went to college, I studied language. I was doing philosophy and religion. I ended up in China, and I had this amazing opportunity to teach English at a university while getting a degree. And that was really just such an amazing experience at, in my early 20s to already be, teaching in massive lecture halls in front of 75 students and, building my own curriculums. And it was just sort of a jump start into the world of education that I'm forever grateful for. And at the same time, I had to learn about the stretch zone, right? I had to learn how to grind and learn Mandarin and just put myself in these situations that were incredibly uncomfortable in a part of the world. I come from North Carolina in the U.S. and I moved to Taiyuan, Shanxi in China, which is this tiny little part of China. So I went to this completely different place. And when I left there, I went back to the United States and I wanted to start teaching Mandarin to English speakers. And I was in Florida I'd met my wife in China. She was from Miami. So we went back to Miami and I started applying. And unfortunately, my degree was not accredited for me to be able to teach. So this blip in the universe, I say, oh, now I got to go back to school and get a couple accreditations. But it led me to this private residential club in South Florida called Ocean Reef Club, where I just started bartending, pick up some extra money. And I realized that this community was really amazing. I have a hospitality background. I used to work in my father's restaurant when I was a kid. So I was like, yeah, I can bartend. And I realized that there were people there who needed language skills. They were from Haiti, they were from Latin America, and they weren't able to progress in their roles without language. So my wife was in HR there. I said, well, can I run like a training program on the side for these individuals? So I was running a training program during the day that I created, an ESL program, English as a second language, and then I was bartending at night. Fast forward, after 9 years, I worked my way to an executive level position running trainings and programming for this club. And eventually I took that to where I'm at Feds in Palm Beach, Breakers. And then when I decided I wanted to leave the corporate world and start my own business, I just fused my academic background and my teaching of soft skills and my developing and training, and I just built it into what I do now, which is trying to help people get from point A to point B, in a coaching consulting type of environment. So that was the 50-cent version. I probably gave you too much, but that
No,
was
that's
sort of the,
fantastic.
the series of happy tangents and, odd directions and shifts that I just sort of, led me to this point.
Nice.
Love asking questions like this about individuals like
Mhm,
yourself that have done all sorts of
mhm.
things. And it's just fascinating, isn't it, how we can bring these different elements of life experiences and together. Fabulous. Thank you for sharing that.
There's one last question that we have, which is going to be a little bit philosophical, but let's see. So, if you could go back in time with everything you know now about yourself and the world, what's one moment where you would have pushed yourself further out your comfort zone?
What a great question. It's a really cool question. Um, oh man, that's really good. Really, I can think of several, but I'll pick one.
Yeah.
I would say college, my bachelor degree, right? Because I was going through the motions. I was getting, C's get degrees sort of mentality. And I was finding classes that that I enjoyed because I wanted to become an educator. But I wasn't necessarily trying to just, and look back now and realize how much, when you're in university, right? When you're truly there, it's one of the most beautiful places. And when you're young and you're also kind of enjoying the social scene and some of the other things happening in your life, you don't always appreciate all of these incredible resources, these brilliant minds, these opportunities that were there. So if I could go back, I would have spent a lot more time heads down, studying, chasing down my professors after class, asking them a variety of questions, learning as much as I possibly could because, yeah, I just think there was a wealth of knowledge there that I tapped into, but I really think I could have sunk my teeth in a bit deeper.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to what you've just said there. Oh, to be young.
Right?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. This was fun.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
fascinating.
Thank you
That
both.
we could keep
I
going.
really appreciate it. It was, both of you are very vibrant and very inspiring in the way you communicate. And I really appreciate you having me on the podcast. And yeah, I hope that it was something beneficial for you and your listeners.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Thank you. And if people want to reach out to you, Doug, where can they find you? Tell us your handles.
Sure. Sure. I have a website. It is thedouglasbrewer.com. So just my full name with the in front of it. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there. I also have a YouTube channel called The Fluent Leader. And those I think will be the best places to start. You can find me in those locations.
And we're going to add those to the footnotes as well. Thank you.
Yes, we will.
Beautiful.
And whoever is listening, if you guys want to find us, you can find us on Instagram and YouTube at the Stretch Zone _podcast. Thank you so much for having listened to us, and thank you so much, Hannah. Thank you so much, Doug, and we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Wrapping up today's episode, remember, you don't have to face change alone.
If you'd like to connect or learn more about working with us individually, reach out to us through our Instagram account at @thestretchzone_podcast, or find our emails in the footnotes to this episode. We're here to support you on your journey, each in your own way.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of The Stretch Zone. If today's discussion resonated with you, remember to subscribe, leave a review, and share the episode with anyone who might benefit. Until next time, keep stretching beyond your comfort zone.